So this crime story happens in Enshi, Hubei provinces, China, which includes a county sharing its name with the emperor, Xianfeng County. Known for its peace and tranquility, this small county was shaken by a shocking murder over a decade ago. A locally renowned female singer was found dead in her own wardrobe. The killer had first struck her with a blunt object, rendering her unconscious. Before strangling her to death, the tragic news left her friends, family, and fans in deep sad. The police, faced with a high-profile case, launched an extensive investigation but encountered numerous obstacles. The case nearly became a cold case until a seemingly insignificant detail, a torn piece of paper, unrevealed the truth behind the crime. So first of all, we're talking about how a burglary turns to murder. On October 26, 2010, the 110 Command Center, for the information, the 110 equals to the 911 in the United States. So the 110 Command Center in Xianfeng County, Enshi, received a call from a man named Liang Zijun, reporting that his home had been burglarized and his wife, Zhang Shuni, was not reachable. The police, after noticing the address, advised Liang to avoid disturbing the crime scenes and rush to his residence, a 3-bedroom apartment in an old complex on Yuanhe Road. So upon the arrival, the officers observed the living room, clean and orderly, with the television and lights still on, and also the master bedroom, completely disheveled, with furniture and personal items strewn everywhere. Drawers were pulled out, indicating someone had searched before. Amid the chaos, one officer noticed that the wardrobe doors tightly shut, standing out in the otherwise disordered scene. Upon opening the wardrobe, he discovered a pair of bare feet buried under clothes. Beneath a garment lay the lifeless body of a young woman. The burglary report instantly escalated to a murder case. Liang Zijun identified the victim as his wife, Zhang Shuni, a 29-year-old singer known locally for her television appearances and performances at regional events. Upon confirming the victim's identity, the forensic team worked overnight to complete the autopsy. The results revealed that Zhang Shuni had died from being struck on the head with a blunt object, causing her to lose consciousness. Subsequent strangulation likely risked her hands, which resulted in her death. Her estimated time of death was around 10 p.m. on October 25, 2010. And now let's take a look at the key findings from the crime scene. The police investigation of the residence uncovered several critical clues. Number 1, there are no forced entry. The doors and the windows were intact, showing no signs of being pried or broken. This suggests that the killer had entered the home peacefully, likely invited or allowed in. And the other one is no signs of the struggle. The living room, including the sofa and floor, appeared clean and undisturbed. There were no visible signs of a physical altercation in this area. And then there's a deliberate cleanup. The killer displayed a high level of anti-detection skill, leaving no fingerprints or other identifying evidence at the scene. And there is this meticulous tidying indicated a deliberate effort to eliminate forensic traces. And there's still some stolen items. According to Zhang's husband, her mobile phones and jewelry were missing. Strangely, valuable in the wardrobe, including jewelry and cash, remained untouched, and deviated from typical robbery murder cases, where the killers would often seize all accessible valuables. And then let's look at the timeline as suspicious. Zhang's time of death, around 10 p.m., raised further questions. At this hour, most residents in the apartment complex were still awake, making it an unlikely time for a typical break-in or burglary, which usually occurs late at night when occupants are asleep. So the killer's ability to access the home without damaging the locks strongly implied they were familiar to the victim. While the possibility of Zhang Shuni forgetting to lock her door was considered, this scenario was deemed highly unlikely. So the police began their investigation by digging into Zhang Shuni's social relationship, hoping to uncover potential leads. So Zhang Shuni's husband, Liang Zijun, was a 41-year-old man, 12 years a senior. Both were in their second marriages. By all accounts, Liang was devoted and caring. often described as attentive to Zhang's needs. The couple lead a simple life centered around work and family, with no known enemies or major conflicts. However, in most murder cases involving a married woman, the husband is often the prime suspect. The police scrutinized Liang's action on the day of the crime, but found he had a solid alibi. On October 25, the day of the murder, Liang traveled to Enshi for medical treatment and stayed overnight at a local hotel. He provided train tickets and hotel records, which were verified by hospital and hotel surveillance footage. The police verified these details and confirmed Liang's alibi. He was not present at the time or locations of the crime, clearing him of direct involvement. So the police start expanding the investigation. The focus then shifted to Zhang's colleagues, friends, and family members. However, none of them had a clear motive for harming Zhang Shuni. All of them provided solid alibis for the time of the crime. This left these investigators frustrated as their most likely suspects were cleared. So let's refresh the crime scene. Recognizing the importance of physical evidence, the police returned to the crime scenes for a meticulous review. Their persistence paid off. They discovered new clues that would move the case forward. So the first part is the footprints. During a detailed examination of the crime scene, the police uncovered two suspicious-sized 33 footprints near the sofa. The shoe size is rare for men unless they are particularly short and slim. However, it falls within the range of typical woman's shoe size, raising the possibility that the killer might be a woman. To clarify this lead, the police seek the expertise of footprint specialists from the Ministry of Public Security. After close analysis, the experts provided surprising conclusions. The killer was likely a man, based on gait and footprints characteristics. The footprints showed signs of big feet in small shoes, suggesting the man wore size 40 shoes but intentionally used smaller, feminine shoes to mislead investigators. The killer was short, standing approximately 1.63 to 1.68 meters tall, with a lean build. And the individual was skilled at climbing or acrobatics, hinting at possible experience in martial arts, gymnastics, or similar physical disciplines. While these findings were intriguing, the deceptive use of smaller shoes complicated the investigation, turning the newly discovered clue into a dead end. Meanwhile, the police team reviewing the apartment's complex surveillance footage made some progress. The apartment where Zhang Shuni and Liang Zijun lived was small, with only one entrance. Surveillance cameras covered the entrance, and the surrounding walls were too high to climb, meaning anyone entering or leaving the complex had to pass through the monitored area. The police reasoned that the killer must have been captured on camera, and no one could disappear from the footage. So they decided to verify the identity of everyone recorded entering or exiting the complex on the night of the murder. Given the small number of the residents, the process was relatively straightforward. After 2 days of work, the police confirmed the identities of everyone seen on the footage and found no suspicious individuals. Faced with this puzzling outcome, the investigators devised an experiment. 2 officers enter the complex together from outside while their colleagues monitor the surveillance feed. To their astonishment, the footage showed only one officer entering the complex, while the other officers appeared to vanish. Upon further inspection, they discovered that the surveillance camera had a blind spot, roughly 1 meter wide, while the wall near the entrance. Anyone walking close to the wall could avoid being captured on camera. So the officer who had disappeared during the experiment had walked precisely along this blind spot. This revelation had significant implications. The killer knew the apartment well, including the location of the surveillance blind spot. The lack of forced entry into Zhang's apartment suggested that the killer was someone Zhang knew and trusted enough to let in. This new evidence strengthened the theory that the crime was committed by someone familiar with both the victim and the layout of the apartment. The police now firmly believe that this was a premeditated crime by someone close to Zhang Shuni. 3 weeks after the incident, Zhang Shuni's mother brought an important detail to the attention of the police. She mentioned receiving a call from an insurance company to verify her daughter's death. An insurance agent informed her that Zhang's husband, Liang Zijun, had purchased a life insurance policy for Zhang prior to her death, naming himself as the sole beneficiary. The policy had a payout of 320,000 RMB. So this prompted the police to investigate further. They discovered that Liang had actually purchased 3 separate life insurance policies for his wife across 3 different companies, with a combined payout of 1.7 million RMB. These policies had required premium payments totaling 800 RMB. So let's look at the suspicious financial behavior. And this raised a significant suspicion. Liang worked as a delivery driver for a blasting company, earning approximately 3,000 RMB per month. He had no significant savings and lived modestly, making the 80,000 RMB premium payments an unusually large expense for someone in his financial position. Moreover, the act of purchasing multiple high-value policies for Zhang while ignoring his own financial vulnerabilities and a dangerous job struck the investigators as highly irregular. This behavior was consistent with patterns observed in murder for insurance schemes. However, Liang Zijun had a solid alibi for the time of the crime, supported by the verified evidence. This ruled out the possibility of him personally committing the murder. So this led the police to consider another angle. Could Liang have hired someone else to kill Zhang in order to claim the high insurance payout? So the investigators theorized that the hired killer was someone Liang knew well and trusted enough to carry out the crime. Zhang Shuni also knew, as the killer was able to enter the apartment without forced entry. This suggested that the hired killer was likely within Liang's close social circle. The next step was to determine exactly who this person was. Hiring someone to commit murder inevitably requires money. To explore this angle, the police conducted a comprehensive investigation into Liang Zijun's bank accounts and financial transactions. The results showed that Liang had no large transfer or unusual financial activity, eliminating the possibility of substantial payments to a professional hitman. Basically, there are 2 scenarios of hired killing. Number 1 is large payment for a professional hitman. A significant sum is paid to a stranger or professional for the crime. And the second one is personal connection. The killer has a close relationship with the mastermind, potentially requiring little or no payments due to personal ties of favors. Given Liang's lack of financial activity, the first scenario was ruled out, leaving only the second possibility. The police then turned the actions to Liang's social circle, conducting a detailed investigation into his family, friends, and acquaintances. However, after exhausting all leads, they found no one who fit the profile or had a plausible motive. This raised the question, was there someone in Liang's life the police had overlooked? At this point, one of the investigators proposed a new idea. Since Liang Zijun and Zhang Shuni had only been married for a short time, it was likely that the killer, being close to Liang, had been acquainted with him for at least a year. This meant that there was a high probability that a killer had attended their wedding, which took place a year earlier. Weddings in the region typically involve guests bringing monetary gifts, which are recorded in a gift ledger. This ledger would list the names of the attendees alongside the amounts they contributed. If the killer had attended the wedding, their name would be documented in the ledger. So the police returned to the crime scene and, luckily, found the wedding ledger in a small cabinet beneath the TV. However, they quickly noticed a significant detail. One page of the ledger had a torn corner, making it impossible to read the names of the 6 guests listed on both sides of the page. So this discovery validated the investigators' theory. The killer had indeed attended Liang Zijun and Zhang Shuni's wedding, and Liang had deliberately torn the ledger to obscure the name. So the police keep tracing the missing names. With the breakthrough, the investigation gained momentum. It is customary for couples to prepare a guest list before sending out wedding invitations. So the police theorized that the 6 missing names from the ledger would also appear on the original guest list. So the investigators conducted exhaustive search of the apartment, Finally, they discovered the guest list tucked away at the very bottom of the nightstand drawer. This discovery set the stage of identifying the missing suspect among the names. After comparing the guest list with the names in the torn sections of the wedding ledger, the police found that 5 of the 6 names had already been investigated and cleared. The only person remaining was Lu, who had yet to be questioned. The police immediately began a covert investigation into Lu. So let's look at the profile of the Lu. He was 30 years old, occupation unemployed, with no fixed profession. He has 2 habits known from gambling and lottery. Physical traits short and lean, consistent with the forensic profile provided by footprints experts. And the background was formerly performed acrobats and street shows. These characteristics match the conclusion drawn by the footprint analysis, further raising suspicions additionally. And here's what the Lu's phone records revealed. Frequent contact with Liang Zijun before the murder, and then no communication between the two after the crime. A notable and unusual change. So the police also observed that Lu regularly wore size 40 shoes, matching the footprints left at the scene. Moreover, Lu's financial records show he was in dire need of money, owing tens of thousands of RMB in debt following a car accident involving his wife. So given the mounting evidence, the police detained Lu under the pretense of his gambling activities and brought him in for questioning. After a period of persuasion and strategized questioning, Lu confessed. He said Zhang Shuni had been killed by him. The mastermind behind the crime was Liang Zijun, Zhang's husband. According to Lu, he agreed to kill Zhang Shuni because Liang promised to pay him 100,000 RMB within a month after this murder. However, he had not yet received the money. Lu expressed frustration and betrayal, realized that Liang had essentially hired him on a credit to commit the crime. Lu further admitted that this was not the first attempt. Liang had previously instructed him to kill Zhang Shuni on 3 separate occasions. But each time, unforeseen circumstances caused the plans to fail. With Zhang's insurance policy nearing expiration, Liang grew increasingly desperate and insisted that the murder be carried out before October 26. On the evening of October 25, Liang prepared for the crime. He told Zhang he was leaving for Enshi for medical treatment. Before departing, he handed her a bank card and said, "A friend of mine will come by tonight to pick this up. Please give it to him." Later, the night, around 10 p.m., and the doorbell was ringing. Zhang was believing it was husband's friend, asked who was at the door. When Lu confirmed he was there to collect the card, she, without a suspect, letting him in. Once Lu entered the apartment, Zhang Shuni went to the coffee table to reach the card. As she bent down to pick up the card, Lu suddenly struck her head with a hammer he had brought with him. Afterward, Lu dragged Zhang Shuni into the bedroom, where he strangled her with his bare hands, causing her to die of suffocation. He then concealed her body in the bedroom wardrobe to stage the scene as a robbery turned murder. Lu took Zhang's mobile phone and jewelry before leaving the apartment. After Lu confessed to the entire crime, the police immediately arrested Liang Zijun as the mastermind. On December 26, 2010, the authority had located the hammer Lu had discarded after the crime, completing the chain of evidence and cementing the case. On September 23, 2011, the Enshi Intermediate People Court delivered its first instance judgment. Liang Zijun was found guilty of intentional homicide and sentenced to death. Lu was also convicted of intentional homicide and received a death sentence with a 2-year reprieve. Liang Zijun, blinded by the prospect of a hefty insurance payout, heartlessly hired someone to murder his own wife. Disregarding the bounds of marriage, likewise, Lu, tempted by the lure of money, became a murderer, taking the life of an innocent person and sealing his fate as a criminal. This case serves as a stark reminder that when faced with this allure of wealth, a single wrong decision can lead to an irreversible consequence. A gentleman loves wealth but acquires it through proper means. That is, old saying comes from China. Treasure money, but do not let greed consume you. Instead of scheming to get rich through deceitful of criminal path, it is far better to work honestly and safeguard the earnings that are rightfully yours. I'm Charles. dedicating to bring you in-depth case analysis. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Have a case you would like me to cover? Feel free to share it in the comment sections. I'll see you next time.